Thanks very much. Right, hello everyone. Let's just get an idea about how much of an issue falls might be for people in the room. So, has anyone had a fall in the last year? So, that's less than I would have expected, actually. They're a huge problem in our society, with huge numbers of people suffering falls, and a very costly condition, not just related to the fractures and the physical injuries they cause, but also the psychological and social consequences of falls as well. But it's not just old people who fall, and it drives me mad when I see people who say, I've fallen just because I'm old. Or there may be people who have seen a clinician or a doctor who's told them, well, there's nothing we can do, you're getting old now, you just need to get on with things. But remember, everyone falls. Toddlers fall when they're learning to walk. Young people fall when they're not watching where they're going because they're looking at their smartphone. Middle-aged people fall. I've had a few falls. And older people fall. So we all fall. It's not an aging related problem. It's just that it's more common in older people because of everything else that's going on. The worrying thing is that the proportion of people that are falling over the age of 65 is increasing. And over the last 10 years, the proportion of people in America who fall had increased by 10%. And given that the population is aging, we're going to see more and more falls. So we really need to get on top of falls prevention. So we're going to go back to medical school, and I'm going to do a bit of anatomy and physiology, just so we can get an understanding about why people might fall, to understand what the risk factors are and how we might address them. So we're going to compare our anatomy to the anatomy of an ape, just to understand why we can get about on two legs and they can't. So if we start here, our skull inserts onto the spine in a very central position so that we're neither pulled forward or back. And you'll see the ape skull inserts right on the back. So if it tries to go upright, it's pulled forward by its skull. Our spine has a nice S shape to help balance the weight of our organs and our head above our hips, and there's a C shape in the ape. Our hips they're not as wide as an ape, but they are deeper. Where can I show it? So if you see that, it's very shallow there and deep here, and that's holding our organs in place so that we're not pulled forward by our stomach organs. And then there's the shape of our lower legs. So our femurs, our long bones in our legs actually point inwards to focus our weight, and apes point outwards, and we have arches in our feet to help support all of the weight through our ankles, whereas an ape has very flat foot. So we need this healthy anatomy to help keep us upright so that we're not pulled in all the wrong directions. Then we've got our organs inside, which help us keep our balance and react to different things which might topple us over. So I've got a video to talk more about the physiology and the mechanisms we've got to try and maintain our balance.
As we have seen, our skeleton is engineered to help keep us balanced on our feet, but our organs and senses also play a crucial role in maintaining balance. Our brain acts as the control centre, receiving signals, processing information, and fine-tuning our movements in order to prevent falls. We rely on continuous information from three principal senses. Firstly, our vision informs the brain where we are in relation to other objects, and whether our surroundings are moving or stationary. Next, our brain receives information from our inner ear. Here we have 3 fluid-filled canals, each positioned so that movements in any direction can be detected. These semicircular canals also detect speed and acceleration of movement. Finally, our brain receives information from our skin, muscles and joints. Nerves detect pressure and stretch so that we know where our limbs are and what they are doing. These signals are particularly important when coming from our feet. Once the signals have arrived in our brain, it is able to integrate them and generate a response, which will rapidly result in a movement of our eyes or body that will prevent us from losing balance. Occasionally, one of these senses may fail, and this can result in a feeling of unsteadiness, which specialists call disequilibrium. You may have experienced this before when standing still and something next to you, like a bus or a train, pulls away. Your eyes mistakenly judge you to be moving backwards, but your inner ear and feet are saying that you're still, resulting in conflicting messages and a feeling of unsteadiness. Some people may have more long-lasting problems with any one of these senses, resulting in chronic unsteadiness. But the good news is that our brain is constantly learning and adjusting to repeated movements, and with specialist treatments and rehabilitation, our brain can learn to compensate by focusing on our remaining functional senses. A good example of the brain's ability to learn would be a dancer or acrobat or gymnast who, with training, is able to maintain balance in extreme positions and overcome dizziness. We will learn more in week 2 about how we can keep our senses healthy, thereby keeping our balance healthy.
So how can we make sure that our balance is healthy? Or if something has gone wrong, how can we help keep things as they are and prevent them from getting worse? So these are the things that we need to do. We need to keep our brain healthy because it's coordinating all of those signals that I talked about. And the main thing about keeping the brain healthy is a healthy lifestyle. So no smoking, healthy amounts of alcohol, not too much, controlling blood pressure, and as I'm going to bang on from now on, physical activity keeps the brain healthy. So there's lots of research showing that exercise is good for cognition and brain function. The next thing about helping keep our balance healthy is our eyes. So to keep our eyes healthy, we need to protect it from the sunlight. So wear a hat if it's sunny or sunglasses. Visit the optician regularly so that they can identify any early problems with the eyes that might be developing. Brightly coloured fruit and veg contain the best vitamins, minerals for the eyes, and not smoking. Smoking is very, very bad for the eyes. For the inner ear, I mentioned about direction and speed of movement. The best thing to keep that healthy is physical activity, because being active, having lots of movement, will keep the nerves firing, and that will keep that system healthy. Our muscles are really important to keep us upright, and the best way to keep those healthy is physical activity again. And the joints, that's about being a healthy weight, so we're not putting too much strain on them, and physical activity again. The nerves in the feet are really, really important. So particularly if anyone has any diabetes, I always say it's really important that you keep your feet very clean and moisturised, and if you have anything on your feet that doesn't heal, you must tell your doctor. And the nerves that fire from our joints in our feet, we need to keep them firing all the time to keep them going and keep them healthy. And I've already mentioned about keeping the feet healthy. So the single biggest risk for having a fall is already having one. And that sounds a daft thing to say, but that's the best time to do something about it, because that's when the risk is highest. If you've had one, you are really high risk of having another one, and that's the right time to seek help. So 3 times 3 times more likely to have a fall. So if you're worried about falls and you have one, go to your doctor, and you could access falls clinics that way. And a falls clinic looks at all kinds of different reasons why people might fall and tries to reduce those risks. And a falls team is composed of lots of different people to address as many risk factors as possible to reduce that risk. Things that people can do for themselves to try and reduce them falls tends to be quite common sense, really. I've taken some photographs around my house to find some risk factors for falls, and there are quite a few. So it doesn't actually show up on the photo very well here, but that's perhaps the point. This is the door threshold between my hallway and my kitchen, and on this photo it's virtually invisible. So for people who have poor vision or people who don't have adequate lighting, that's easy to trip and fall over that. So that's just common sense. That could be painted a different colour or have some tape put over the top of it. I think all of our houses are becoming more like this, especially if there's teenagers in the house with lots of laptops and devices. There's wires everywhere, and that's not my house, by the way. But this is more trip hazards. Here, another common one that we see, I'll take this upstairs later. And it's left on the stairs. So someone will trip on that at some point. Or this is my cat lying on the stairs who has been stood on a few times because that's where he likes to sleep. Another thing that I see commonly in clinic is people who fall when they get up to go to the loo during the night because they don't want to wake anyone up by putting the light on. Well, guess what? They wake people up when there's a big crash. So they're just common sense things. So the best thing that I offer people who come to the falls clinic to reduce their risk of falls is exercise. So this is one of the best risk reduction interventions that we have, but there are some specific points about exercise and reducing falls. So it needs to be strength and balance exercise. Just doing strengthening exercise, it doesn't reduce falls, and just doing balance exercise doesn't reduce falls. It has to be both. Lots of people seem to like to do Tai Chi for reducing falls. It can work, but it's not as good as strength and balance training. And unfortunately, there is research showing that just increasing the amount of time that you're walking, it doesn't help reduce falls, unfortunately. So it has to be strength and balance training. That's usually done via a class where lots of people at risk of falling will go and meet their instructor, but can then be taken home and done in their own time. And when I say exercises, I'm not talking about lots of heavy weights at the gym or aerobic classes. They can be done seated, standing, have these exercise bands to make them more challenging if necessary. So they are safe exercises. One of the things that your GP or falls doctor might look at is tablets that might contribute to falls. So what often happens is someone will get started on a tablet and they'll be on it for years and years and years, but they no longer need it. And over time, people end up being on more and more tablets, but without having them reviewed, they end up getting more and more side effects, but they end up outweighing the need for the tablets. There are some particular tablets that increase the risk of falls, and these are the ones. So particularly tablets used by psychiatrists are associated with falls. Sleeping tablets, that might make sense. Tablets to treat high blood pressure, which then cause low blood pressure, cause falls. And tablets to treat fluid retention also cause falls. Now, taking these tablets off involves a discussion with your doctor to work out whether you still need them or whether you're still getting benefit from them. I think this might be my last slide, and it's a bit of a plug. I run a course to educate people about falls and falls prevention. It might be carers or people themselves that are at risk of falling, and it's all done online, and it's free, and people can sign up to do this course if they want to reduce their risk of falling. That's last year's. I haven't updated that, but this is coming within the next year again. I think